The day my world shattered. I was 12, sitting on the porch steps with a trash bag of clothes, watching my older sister, Emily, squeal with delight as Dad handed her the keys to a shiny red convertible. Mom's voice, sharp as broken glass, echoed from inside. "Lila, you're too much trouble. Foster care will fix you." By nightfall, I was in a stranger's house, my heart a bruise, while Emily's laughter rang in my ears like a taunt. It wasn't my fault at least. I didn't think so. I was the problem child, the one who asked too many questions, who didn't smile on cue for family photos, who accidentally broke Mom's favorite vase during one of her rages. Emily, at 16, was the golden girl, all charm and compliance, her straight-A report cards framed on the mantle. When our parents' marriage started crumbling, they poured their love into her new clothes. Private tutors. That damn car while I got blame and exile. Foster care was their solution to fix me, as if I were a broken toy they could return. My first foster home smelled of stale cigarette smoke and regret. Mrs. Carter, a tired woman with gray streaks in her hair, tried her best, but her house was crowded with kids like Melost. Angry. Forgotten. I shared a room with a girl who cried herself to sleep every night, her sobs a mirror to my own. I'd lie awake, replaying that day on the porch, Emily's grin as she revved the engine, Mom's cold eyes as she signed me away. I didn't cry, though. I couldn't. Crying felt like surrender, and I swore I'd never give them that. School became my escape. I buried myself in books, in math problems, in anything that kept my mind from unraveling. Teachers noticed and pitied me. Others saw potential. Ms. Harrow, my 7th grade English teacher, slipped me novels under the desk, whispering, "These will take you places." Lila. I read voraciously, imagining worlds where kids like me weren't discarded. But every night, back in whatever foster home I'd been shuffled to, the ache returned. I wrote letters to Emily, begging her to explain why she didn't fight for me. I never sent them. What was the point? She had her car, her life, her freedom. Years passed, each one a blur of new addresses, new faces, new rules. By 16, I'd been in 5 homes, each less welcoming than the last. I learned to pack light, to trust no one, to keep my dreams small. But deep down, a spark flickered a stubborn, stupid hope that one day I'd confront my family, make them see what they'd done. I didn't want revenge. Not exactly. I wanted them to feel the weight of my absence, to choke on their guilt. At 18, I aged out of the system. No ceremony, no goodbye party, just a social worker handing me a bus ticket and a pamphlet about life skills. I moved to a rundown apartment in the city, got a job bussing tables, and enrolled in community college. I was free, but freedom tasted bitter. I'd see girls my age with families who loved them, and the old wound would split open. Emily, I heard, was at some fancy university, probably still driving that red convertible. Mom and Dad. I didn't know. I didn't care. Or so I told myself. One rainy afternoon, I was wiping down tables at the diner when my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Lila, it's Emily. I need to see you." My heart stopped. After 6 years of silence. Why now? I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over the reply button. Part of me wanted to delete it, to keep the wall I'd built between us. But another part, the part that still remembered her laugh, her rare moments of kindness, itched to know what she wanted. I typed back, "Why?" Her response came fast, "Please. It's important. I'm in town." I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop downtown. My hands shook as I poured myself into a booth, scanning the door for her face. When she walked in, I barely recognized her. The girl who'd once been all confidence was thinner, her eyes shadowed, her designer purse clutched like a shield. She slid into the seat across from me, and for a moment, we just stared. "Lila," she said, her voice breaking. "I'm so sorry. Those words hit like a punch. But I didn't flinch. I wasn't ready to forgive, not yet. She told me everything. After I was sent away, our parents' marriage imploded. Dad left. Mom spiraled into debt. And Emily, the golden child, became their crutch. The car, the clothes, it was all a bribe to keep her loyal. But guilt had eaten at her. She said. She'd tracked me down through a mutual friend, desperate to make things right. I didn't know how bad it was for you, she whispered, tears spilling. I was selfish. I was scared. I wanted to scream, to tell her she'd had years to reach out, to ask why she'd let me rot while she played perfect daughter. But her tears stopped me. They were real, raw, like the ones I'd swallowed all those years. What do you want from me? I asked, my voice steady but cold. She reached for my hand, and I pulled back. I want my sister back, she said. And I want to tell you something that changes everything. Emily's words hung in the air, heavy with promise and dread. I leaned back in the booth, arms crossed, my heart a war zone of hope and suspicion. She fidgeted with her coffee cup, avoiding my gaze, then finally spoke. Mom's sick. Lila. Cancer. She doesn't have long. The news landed like a stone in my chest, but I didn't let it show. Mom, the woman who discarded me, was dying. I waited for sadness, for anything, but all I felt was a hollow ache. She's been asking for you, Emily continued, her voice barely above a whisper. She regrets what happened. She wants to see you before. She trailed off, her eyes pleading. I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound that made her flinch. Regrets. Now, after 6 years of nothing. Emily's face crumpled, but I didn't stop. Where was her regret when I was sleeping in strangers' houses? When I was eating cold cereal for Christmas dinner? My voice cracked, betraying the anger I'd buried for years. Emily reached for me again, and this time I let her hand rest on mine. Her touch was warm, familiar, and it stirred memories I'd tried to forget, nights when we'd shared a blanket during thunderstorms. Her whispering stories to keep me calm. I know I failed you, she said. I was a kid too, Lila. I didn't know how to fight them. But I'm here now. Please, come home. Home. The word felt foreign, like a language I'd forgotten. I wanted to say no, to walk away and leave the past where it belonged. But something in her eyes, guilt. Yes, but also love, made me pause. I'll think about it, I said finally, standing to leave. She nodded, scribbling her number on a napkin. Call me. Anytime. The next few days were a blur. I went through the motions at the diner, at school, but my mind was elsewhere. Mom was dying. Emily wanted me back. The sister I'd hated for years wasn't the villain I'd made her out to be. I dug out the old letters I'd written to her, the ones I'd never sent. They were full of rage. But beneath it, a desperate plea for connection. I didn't know if I could forgive, but I knew I couldn't keep running. I called Emily a week later. I'll come, I said, my voice tight. But not for her. For me. She exhaled, relief flooding her words. Thank you, Lila. I'll pick you up tomorrow. True to her word, she showed up in a beat-up sedan far from the convertible of our childhood. We drove in silence, the city fading into suburbs, then into the familiar streets of our old neighborhood. My stomach churned as we pulled up to the house. It looked smaller, faded, like a photograph left in the sun too long. Mom was in the living room, propped up on a couch that sagged under her frail frame. Her hair was gone, her skin paper thin, but her eyes, those cold, judgmental eyes, were the same. Lila, she croaked, reaching out a trembling hand. I didn't take it. I stood there, arms crossed, feeling like that 12-year-old girl again, waiting for an explanation that would never come. I'm sorry, she said, her voice breaking. I was wrong. I was weak. I wanted to believe her, but the words felt like ash. Emily stood beside me, her hand brushing mine, a silent anchor. Why? I asked, my voice low. Why did you choose her over me? Mom's tears came fast, but she didn't answer. She couldn't. Instead, she gestured to a box on the coffee table. Open it, she said. Inside were letters, hundreds of them, addressed to me, unopened. Emily gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. She wrote to you, she whispered. All these years. I picked one up, my hand shaking. The date was from 6 months after I'd been sent away. Dear Lila, I made a mistake. I'm trying to get you back. I opened another, then another. They were apologies, confessions, promises, none of which had reached me. The foster agency, Mom said weakly. They wouldn't let me send them. They said it was better for you. I felt the room tilt. All those years, I'd thought she'd forgotten me. But she hadn't. Or had she? Doubt gnawed at me. Was this just another excuse? Another way to ease her guilt? I looked at Emily, searching for answers. But she was as stunned as I was. I didn't know, she said, her voice thick with tears. I swear, Lila, I didn't know. I left the house that day with the box of letters, my mind a storm. I didn't forgive Mom, not yet. But the letters cracked something open in me, a sliver of possibility. Maybe there was more to the story. Maybe there was a way back to the family I'd lost. Back in my tiny apartment, I spread the letters across the floor, a patchwork of my mother's regret. Each one was a window into her unraveling her fights with Dad, her shame, her failed attempts to bring me home. Some were barely legible, stained with tears or smudged ink. I was scared. Lila, I thought you'd be better off without me. I read until my eyes burned, searching for truth in her words. Part of me wanted to believe her, to rewrite the story of my abandonment. But another part screamed that it was too late. Emily called every day, leaving voicemails I didn't answer. Lila, please talk to me. I'm losing her, and I can't lose you too. I ignored her, but her voice chipped away at my resolve. I wasn't ready to face Mom again. But Emily, she was different. She'd been a kid, caught in the same storm as me, even if she'd come out unscathed. I finally texted her, meet me at the diner. Tomorrow. She showed up early, her eyes red-rimmed but hopeful. We sat in the same booth as before, the air thick with unspoken questions. Why didn't you tell me about the letters? I asked, my voice sharper than I meant. She shook her head. I didn't know. Lila, Mom never told me. I thought you were gone, that you didn't want us. Her honesty disarmed me. I'd spent years hating her. But now I saw the truth. She'd been as lost as I was, just in a different way. We talked for hours, peeling back the layers of our fractured childhood. She told me about Dad's drinking, how he'd left when I was 13, how Mom had turned to her for everything: money, comfort, control. The car wasn't a gift, she admitted. It was a leash. They needed me to stay, to be their perfect daughter. I saw the weight she'd carried, the guilt that mirrored my own pain. For the first time, I didn't feel alone. I went back to see Mom the next week, Emily at my side. The house felt less oppressive now, though the air still carried the sting of memory. Mom was weaker, her voice a whisper. She didn't ask for forgiveness this time, she just talked. About her own childhood, her fears, her mistakes. I thought I was protecting you, she said, her eyes locked on mine. But I broke us all. I didn't know if I believed her, but I listened. It was a start. Over the next few months, I visited more often. Emily and I grew closer, piecing together the fragments of our sisterhood. We laughed over old memories, sneaking cookies, dancing in the living room, and cried over the years we'd lost. Mom's condition worsened, but she clung to life, as if waiting for something. One day, she handed me a small key. It's to the attic, she said. There's something for you. In the attic, I found a trunk filled with my old things: drawings, stuffed animals, a journal I'd kept at 10. Tucked inside was a photo of Emily and me, arms around each other, grinning at a county fair. I hadn't seen that girl in years, the one who smiled without fear. I brought the photo to Mom, and she touched it, her fingers trembling. "I kept it all," she said. "I always hoped you'd come back." That night, I cried for the first time since I was 12. Not out of anger, but grief for the family we could have been, for the years we'd lost. Emily held me, her own tears falling, and we made a silent pact: we'd rebuild. Together. Mom didn't have long, but we'd give her what we could: closure. Maybe. Or at least the chance to say goodbye. As spring turned to summer, I started volunteering at a local foster care center. I saw myself in those kids, their guarded eyes, their quiet defiance. I told them my story, not to scare them, but to show them they could survive. One girl, Mia, reminded me of myself at her age, sharp tongued, scared, but fiercely hopeful. I brought her books, just like Ms. Harrow had done for me, and watched her light up with every page. Emily joined me at the center one day, her convertible long gone, replaced by a practical hatchback. She looked at the kids, then at me, and said, "I want to help. I owe it to you." We started a mentorship program together, pairing foster kids with adults who'd been through the system. It wasn't much, but it was a start, a way to give back what we'd both lost. Mom passed away in the fall, quietly, with Emily and me at her side. Her last words to me were, "You're enough, Lila. You always were." I didn't know if I believed her, but I held her hand as she slipped away, feeling a strange peace settle over me. The anger I'd carried for so long didn't vanish, but it softened, like a bruise fading into skin. We buried her in a small cemetery, under an oak tree she'd loved. Emily and I stood together, silent, as the wind carried away the last of our childhood. After the funeral, we went through the house, sorting through years of clutter and memory. We found more letters, photos, even a video of us as kids, laughing in the backyard. Emily cried as we watched it, her head on my shoulder. "We can't get that time back," she said. I nodded, but added, "We can make new memories." And we did. We spent evenings cooking terrible dinners, laughing until our sides hurt, rebuilding the bond we'd lost. The foster care center became our anchor. Mia, the girl I'd mentored, started calling me her big sister, and the word didn't sting anymore. Emily threw herself into the program, using her charm to secure donations, to convince local businesses to hire foster kids. We were a team now, not just sisters, but partners in something bigger. I enrolled in night classes, studying social work, determined to make a difference for kids like me. But not everything was smooth. One night, Emily confessed she'd been hiding something. "Dad's back," she said, her voice tight. "He's been calling, wanting to see us." My stomach dropped. Dad, the man who'd left without a word, who'd let me be sent away. I wanted nothing to do with him, but Emily's eyes were pleading. "He's sober now," she said. "He's different." I didn't believe her, but I agreed to meet him, for her sake. He was waiting at a diner, older, grayer, his hands fidgeting with a napkin. "Lila," he said, standing as I approached. I didn't hug him. I sat, arms crossed, waiting. He talked about his addiction, his regret, his years of running from himself. "I failed you," he said, his voice breaking. "I failed both of you." I listened, but I didn't forgive. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I saw the man he was trying to be, and that was enough for now. Emily and I left the diner in silence, but she squeezed my hand. "Thank you," she whispered. I nodded, realizing that forgiveness wasn't about him, it was about me, about letting go of the weight I'd carried. We drove back to the house, the night air cool against our skin, and I felt something shift. The past wasn't gone, but it didn't own me anymore. At the foster center, Mia made a breakthrough. She wrote a poem about her life, raw and honest, and read it at a community event. The crowd applauded, But her eyes were on me, searching for approval. I hugged her, whispering, "You're enough." It was the same words Mom had given me, and now they felt true. I realized I wasn't just helping Mia, I was healing myself. Emily and I started planning a future together. We talked about moving in together, about turning the mentorship program into something bigger, maybe a nonprofit. The idea scared me, but it also thrilled me. For the first time, I wasn't just surviving, I was building something real. One evening, as we sorted donations at the center, Emily pulled out the old photo from the attic, the one of us at the fair. "We should frame this," she said, smiling. I agreed, but I didn't need the frame to hold on to that moment. The girls we'd been were gone, but the women we'd become were stronger, forged in pain and love and second chances. The nonprofit idea took root, and Emily and I threw ourselves into it. We named it Second Chances, a nod to the life we were rebuilding. We spent late nights drafting proposals, meeting with social workers, and convincing donors to believe in our vision. The work was grueling, but every time I saw a kid like Mia smile, it was worth it. I was no longer the girl in the trash baggie, was someone who could make a difference. Dad started showing up more, tentative at first, like he was afraid we'd vanish. He'd bring coffee to the center, help with small tasks, always watching me as if waiting for permission to exist. I kept my distance, but Emily was softer, letting him in bit by bit. "He's trying, Lila," she said one night, as we locked up the center. "Maybe he deserves a chance." I didn't argue, but I wasn't ready. Not yet. Mia moved to a new foster home, one we'd vetted carefully. She called me every week, her voice brighter each time. "I'm gonna be like you," she said once, and I laughed, hiding the lump in my throat. I started mentoring other kids, each one a mirror of my past. Their stories hurt, but they also fueled me. I was studying for my social work degree now, balancing classes with the nonprofit. Emily handled the logistics, her business degree finally useful, and together we were unstoppable. One day, a letter arrived from Ms. Harrow, my old English teacher. She'd heard about Second Chances and wanted to volunteer. I met her at the center, and she hugged me like I was still her student. "I knew you'd do something extraordinary," she said, her eyes shining. I showed her around, proud of what we'd built. She stayed for hours, reading to the kids, her voice as warm as I remembered. But not every day was a victory. Some kids fell through the cracks, sent to bad homes, lost to the system. Each failure felt personal, like I'd betrayed them. Emily would find me staring at case files, my eyes burning, and she'd pull me into a hug. "We can't save everyone," she'd say, "but we're saving some." Her words kept me going, even when the weight felt too heavy. Dad asked to meet again, this time at the house. I agreed, more for Emily than for him. He'd fixed up the place, new paint, new furniture, like he was trying to erase the past. We sat in the living room, the same one where Mom had died, and he handed me a box. Inside was a necklace, simple and silver, with a small heart pendant. "It was your mother's," he said. "She wanted you to have it." I held it, my fingers tracing the heart, and felt a rush of grief and gratitude. "I don't know if I can forgive you," I said finally, my voice steady. He nodded, his eyes wet. "I don't expect you to, but I'll keep trying." For the first time, I saw him not as the man who'd failed me, but as someone who was trying to be better. I slipped the necklace into my pocket, a small step towards something I couldn't yet name. Back at the center, we got our first big grant. Emily screamed when she read the email, tackling me in a hug that left us both laughing on the floor. We celebrated with the kids, throwing a pizza party that turned into a dance-off. Mia led the charge, her shyness gone, and I watched her, my heart full. This was what I'd been searching for, not just a family, but a purpose. That night, Emily and I sat on the roof of the center, the city lights sprawling below us. "We did this," she said, her voice soft. I nodded, leaning against her. Yeah, we did. The stars above us felt close, like they were watching. For the first time in years, I felt whole. Second chances grew faster than we'd dreamed. We hired staff, expanded to 2 more cities, and started a scholarship fund for foster kids. Emily and I were a force. Our difference is her polish, my grit making us stronger. The kids called us the sisters, and the nickname stuck. Every time I heard it, I felt a pang of pride and pain, remembering the years we'd lost. Dad became a regular at the center, quiet but steady. He'd fix broken chairs, drive kids to appointments, never asking for thanks. I watched him, waiting for the old anger to flare. But it didn't. Instead, I saw a man haunted by his mistakes, trying to make amends. One day, he brought me a coffee, just the way I liked it, and said, "I'm proud of you, Lila." I didn't respond, but I kept the cup, its warmth lingering in my hands. Mia graduated high school, the first in her family. She wore a cap and gown, her smile brighter than the sun. I stood in the crowd, cheering until my voice gave out. She'd been accepted to college, with a scholarship from Second Chances. At the ceremony, she hugged me, whispering, "You saved me." I shook my head. "You saved yourself." But her words stayed with me, a reminder of why we kept going. Emily and I moved in together, a small apartment filled with mismatched furniture and laughter. We'd stay up late, planning new programs, arguing over budgets, then dissolving into giggles over old memories. One night, she pulled out the fair photo, now framed on our wall. "We're not those girls anymore," she said. I nodded. "We're better." But the past wasn't done with us. A social worker called, saying one of our kids, a boy named Jamal, had run away from his foster home. My heart sank. I'd seen the fear in his eyes, the same fear I'd carried at his age. We searched for days, putting up flyers, calling shelters. Emily stayed calm, organizing volunteers, but I saw the strain in her eyes. When we found Jamal, scared but safe, in a park, I hugged him so tight he squirmed. "You're not alone," I told him. He nodded, and I knew he believed me. Dad started joining us for dinner. Awkward at first, but slowly it felt normal. One night, he told us about his recovery, the years he'd spent rebuilding himself. "I don't deserve you to," he said, his voice rough. Emily reached for his hand, and I didn't pull away when he looked at me. Forgiveness wasn't a moment, it was a process, and I was getting there. The nonprofit faced challenges: budget cuts, red tape, kids who slipped through our fingers. But we kept going. Emily's optimism balanced my stubbornness, and together we pushed forward. We started a podcast, sharing stories of foster kids who'd made it, hoping to inspire others. Mia was our first guest, her voice strong and clear, and I cried listening to her, proud beyond words. As winter approached, I finished my degree. At the graduation ceremony, Emily and Dad were in the front row, cheering louder than anyone. I wore Mom's necklace, its heart pendant cool against my skin. I didn't know if I'd forgiven her, but I carried her with me, a reminder of where I'd come from and how far I'd gone. Years later, Second Chances was a beacon for foster kids across the state. We'd opened a community center, a safe space with books, computers, and mentors who'd been through the system. Mia was our first employee, fresh from college, her energy contagious. She'd become family, not just to me, but to every kid who walked through our doors. Emily and I were older now, lines on our faces, but our bond was unbreakable. Dad lived nearby, a quiet presence in our lives. He'd started a woodworking class at the center, teaching kids to build tables, chairs, futures. I didn't call him Dad, not yet, but I didn't flinch when he hugged me. Forgiveness had crept in, slow and steady, like a tide smoothing sharp rocks. He wasn't perfect, but he was ours. One spring morning, Emily and I stood in the community center, watching kids play basketball outside. "We did this," she said, echoing our old rooftop conversation. I nodded, my throat tight. "Yeah, we did." The center was loud with laughter, with hope, with second chances we'd fought for. I thought of Mom, of the letters, of the girl I'd been. She wasn't gone, she was part of me, part of this. Mia ran up, holding a drawing from one of the younger kids, a picture of a house, a family, a sun shining bright. "They want you to have it," she said, grinning. I took it, my eyes stinging. This was home, not the house I'd lost, but the one we'd built. Emily slung an arm around me, and we stood there, watching the kids. The future, the light, the past would always be there, a scar on my heart. But it didn't define me. I'd been the girl in foster care, the one left behind. But I was also the woman who'd fought back, who'd found her sister, her purpose, her family. Emily and I weren't perfect, but we were enough. And as the kids laughed outside, I knew that was all that mattered.